So if we haven't gotten the chance yet, if you didn't hear Lane say it a million times, my name's Audrey. I'm the intern. Hi. Yeah, and so I guess you could just go ahead and get right into it. So a little bit about myself is that I actually grew up in this church. Some of you may remember me as a student sitting in these exact chairs just a year ago, but literally my whole life I have been here. So we're specifically going to hone in on little 3-year-old Audrey growing up in Vineyard Kids. And so I got to meet one of my best friends over there, and her name was Bella. Bella and I grew up going here together every weekend. Some of you guys actually might know Bella. And so I would see Bella every single weekend. Y'all remember like the Saturday services we had? That was us. We all know us in Vineyard Kids. And every weekend we would only grow closer and closer. So eventually our parents got to know each other and we got to the sleepover phase. How exciting, I know. And from then on, we have only grown closer. And still to this day, Bella is one of my best friends. Even if we go a while without talking to each other, which happens because we're both in different colleges, we're both busy, we can reconnect like no time has ever passed. Bella knew me, and probably still knows me better than most people do. She knows how to read my emotions. She can tell when I'm trying to hide something, and she can listen to me even when I have something to say. She always listens to me. She's a great friend. She knows me better than most people. Naturally, since she knows me better than most people do, I tend to trust her with a lot more than I do other people. I tell her my thoughts, my secrets, and everything because I know she's someone I can trust, and she won't judge me. She's never judged me. So I want you guys, I'm going to give you some time to turn and talk with your neighbor for a minute. Describe that person in your life. Who is your Bella? Who is someone who you can confide in? Who's someone you trust? Maybe it's a sibling. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's someone here. Maybe it's someone you met here. That would be amazing. Twins. So who do you think knows you better than most people do? You guys think?
Like my stomach, like actually.
Perfect. That's amazing. I love how I heard so many conversations of people talking about who their best friend is and who is someone they can trust. But maybe you don't have someone who's close to you. Or maybe you do and they don't know every single thing about you. I mean, after all, it's hard. We're very intricate people. There are always parts of our lives that we tend to keep hidden. Maybe it's a mistake you made. Maybe it's a struggle you're dealing with, an insecurity, or thoughts you'd never want anyone else to hear. We all have things that we keep kind of locked away in a box in our heads because we think that if people really knew the real us, they might not love us the same. That's exactly where Psalm 139 begins. David starts by talking about God who already knows every single part of him. The parts everyone else sees and the parts no one else ever will. Now, we're going to look at someone who knew that God knew him better than anyone. So if you have your Bibles, you can go ahead and flip to Psalm 139 and follow along with me. We're going to be jumping around a little bit. So while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and give you some context. Some of you know who David is, but maybe you don't, and that's okay. He was a shepherd boy who God chose to be king of Israel. Crazy career jump, I know. David was known as a man after God's own heart. He wasn't perfect. He made serious mistakes. But he continuously, time after time after time, he turned back to God, which is why Psalms is such a beautiful book. It's so vulnerable and open to the Lord, and the Lord wants to invite us to do the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. So the first section we're going to be looking in is verses 1 through 6. I apologize if I have to look at my paper. It's already like light text, or then I highlighted it in deep purple. Don't know why I did that. So it says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and you are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it. So David says here that God doesn't just know him like a best friend does. He knows us completely. That's kind of the main idea of this section, is that he knows us completely. He knows when we sit down and when we get up. He knows our thoughts before we even think them through. He knows the words we're about to say before they leave our mouths. And he knows every step of our lives because he's the one who created us. When David says in verse 6, such knowledge is too wonderful for me, he's basically saying, I can't even wrap my head around how deeply God knows me. It's a reminder that there's never been a moment in your life God has looked at you and thought, I didn't see that coming. He's always known you fully, and he's always loved you. God's complete knowledge of us isn't meant to scare us. It's meant to reassure us. So going into verse 7, it says, where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for the darkness is light with you. This is some powerful stuff, guys. This next section is about how we can literally go anywhere, and God will be with us. God is there to guide us and to protect us. If verses 1 to 6 show us that God knows us completely, then verses 7 to 12 show us that God is always with us. And David asks, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? The answer, nowhere. David gives these extreme examples. If I went to heaven, God would be there. If I went to the depths, God would be there. If you traveled as far as the east sun rises or as far as the west sea, God would still be there. Even if he was surrounded by darkness, God could still see him perfectly because dark is not dark to God. This doesn't mean we can run away and hide from God. It means we never have to face anything alone. There's comfort in that. Whether you're having the best day of your life or the worst, whether you're at church, at school, or vacation, or lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering what to do, God's presence never leaves you. His presence isn't tied to a building or a feeling, even though it's often associated with that. He's with his people wherever they go. This reminds me of a time in my life. When I was little, I wanted to be with my older sister wherever she went because I loved her and I looked up to her. My sister is almost 13 years older than me, but she's like my best friend. And because she was my best friend, I wanted to do every single thing with her. I wanted to have sleepovers in her room every night. I wanted to do things with her every waking moment of every single day. I wanted to dress like her, act like her, and do all of the things she does because I admired her. When she went to college, I remember having to take my parents' phones and trying to text and call her because I missed having her next to me. I missed her presence. I never wanted to leave her side. I longed to be with her. Similarly, God wants to be with his children because he loves us. He longs to be with us and wants us to invite him into our lives. Because of that love, there is not a single place you can go where God would leave you. He will always be with you, watching over you, protecting you, and guiding you. Just like how I always wanted to be with my sister, or maybe you want to be with your best friend. Sometimes you don't even have to be talking to each other. You can just be sitting in the same room and each other's presence are enough. I know I've had that with my friends. We're just sitting and doom scrolling the whole time. Yeah, we've done that. Just sitting in the presence of God invites him into so many more things in our lives. God's love is always surrounding us. God's presence is always with us. So we're going to go into the next section. That's verses 13 to 16. And these say, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them. The days were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." David here says, "You formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb." That picture of knitting is so intentional. When someone knits something, they don't just throw pieces together randomly. That wouldn't make anything. Every single stitch has a purpose. David is saying that God didn't create us by accident. He carefully and intentionally made every single person. Every part of you is intentional. When David says, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made," he's recognizing that every human life has incredible value. Every person is made by God. The word fearfully doesn't mean that we should be afraid of ourselves or anything for that matter. It means we're made with awe, care, and reverence. We are God's workmanship. David says that even before anyone else could see him, God saw him. Before he took his first breath, before he was born, God already knew every single part of him. Verse 16 even says that all the days were ordained for him, were written in God's book before one of them came to be. That doesn't mean life is always easy, but it does mean our lives have a purpose and are never ever random to God. God created us intentionally for a purpose. So these next few verses turn to God. They admire his greatness. They say, "How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I would count on them, they are more than the sand. I awake and I am still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them as my enemies." A little aggressive, coming on a little strong. I know. Let me help you unpack that a little bit. After spending the whole song talking about how incredible God is, how he knows us, is always with us, created us, David shifts the focus to God's character. He begins in verses 17 to 18 saying that God's thoughts are precious and beyond counting. In other words, David is overwhelmed by God's wisdom and goodness. In verses 19 to 22, David talks about the wicked, people who openly reject God, oppose him, and do evil. At first, these verses can look a little bit harsh, but David isn't saying, "I personally hate these people." He's expressing his deep love for God and his grief over the fact that people rebel against him. Imagine if someone hated your best friend. Your heart would grieve a little bit because you think of your best friend as a wonderful, amazing individual and wish that others could see them as that too. You would just wish that everyone could see them as you see them because they are such a wonderful person. David desires for God's justice to prevail because evil people hurt and dishonor God. It's important to remember that the Bible teaches us to love people, even our enemies. So this passage isn't giving us permission to hate those who disagree with us or treat us badly. Instead, David is saying, "God, I want to be on your side. I don't want to join those people who reject you. We should hate sin because it separates people from God and destroys lives. But we should never stop loving people because every person is someone God created and someone Jesus came to save." David has spent the whole psalm talking about God, but instead of ending by pointing fingers at everyone else, he turns it back on himself. himself. David wants a closer relationship to the Lord, and he doesn't want his heart to be in the wrong place. So God desires a close relationship with his children. David basically is saying, before I worry about anyone else's heart, God, examine mine. And this is where we lead into the final two verses, which say, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there's any grievous way in me, and lead me into the way everlasting." Throughout this entire psalm, David has been painting a picture of who God is. He's shown us that God knows us completely. He's shown us that God is always with us. He's shown us that God created each of us intentionally and that his ways are good and just. But David just doesn't end by saying, "Wow, God is amazing," move on with his life. Instead, he turns the focus back on himself. He says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Lead me in the way everlasting." David doesn't want to be like the evil people who rebel against God. In other words, David is saying, because I know who you are, I'm willing to let you have every single part of me. And that's really the heart of Psalm 193. This psalm isn't just about learning facts about God, it's just about responding to him. Because when you know that God knows you completely, never leaves you, and created you intentionally, you don't have to hide from him. You can just trust him with every part of your life. Throughout this psalm, we've seen that God knows everything about us. He knows our thoughts before we think them. He knows every word before we speak it. He knows every mistake we've ever made, every sin we've committed, every selfish thought we've had, every secret we've tried to hide. He knows it all. If we're honest, that should be a little scary. Because if God really knows everything, then he knows a part of us we hope no one ever finds out about. But here's the incredible news of the gospel. The God who knows us completely is the same God who chose to love us completely. God didn't wait for us to clean ourselves up before he loved us. He knew every sin you would ever commit, and he still sent Jesus to die in your place. On the cross, Jesus took the punishment that our sin deserved so that we could have a relationship with God. 3 days later, he rose from the dead, defeating sin and death so that anyone who trusts in him could be forgiven and made new. That's why David can end the psalm by praying, "Search me, O God." He isn't afraid of exposing his heart because he trusts God's character. And because of Jesus, we don't have to be afraid either. We don't have to hide our sin and pretend we're perfect. We don't have to have it all together for the one who died for you. We can come honestly before God because Jesus has already made a way for us to be forgiven. The gospel isn't that God finally loves you once he gets to know you. The gospel is that God knew everything about you from the very beginning and loved you enough to send his son. Anyway, Jesus didn't die for the polished version of you. He died for the real you, the one that God knew completely. God knows you completely. His presence is always with you. He created you intentionally for a purpose, and he desires a close relationship with his children. In Spanish, that's Dios te conoce, complementame, su presencia está siempre contigo, te creo, intencionalmente con un propósito y desea una relación cercana con sus hijos. So I'm going to encourage you guys to stop hiding from God. We all have things we want to keep to ourselves. Open up to someone who longs to be your best friend. God is waiting for you to expose that. Instead of pretending that these things aren't there, open up to him in prayer. Pray this song. Say, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts." I'm going to encourage you guys, as I close here, to pray with some people sitting around you. And pray this prayer. Share maybe one area of your life that you want to bring to God. Maybe it's a sin that has been weighing you down. Maybe it's a burden or something that you just can't let go of. God is inviting you to take the weight off your shoulders and give it to him. Psalm 139 reminds us that before we had places in our lives that we are hiding, God knew our story. He knows us deeply and intimately. My invitation to you is to stop hiding and start trusting. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this opportunity to speak to this group today. I pray over them and that they stop hiding from you, any part of them, any aspect of their lives that they just want to be hidden, Lord. I pray that they find the courage to open up about it and maybe even talk about it with some of their friends, God. I pray that as they pray with one another today, that your Spirit moves inside of them and that your word is just known upon every single one of them, God. I pray that they know that you are their safe space and that they can run to you with every single thing, sin or a great thing, no matter what it is. I pray that they know that you long to be their best friend. Amen.